This Shabbat, which coincides with the UN Conference on Climate Change in Glasgow, has been designated Eco Shabbat by the Jewish community across Britain. We are marking it in a number of different ways. Upstairs at Rimon, our religion school, the students are involved in learning about how Jewish values teach us to care for the earth and to see ourselves not as the earth's masters, but as stewards and as part of the family of creation, in kinship with it. After the service, members of our social action team will be handing out bee-saving flower seeds of wild flowers, mainly to the children of our religion school, but if there are any left over, we will be happy to give them out to members of the congregation. The readings which you heard earlier, Eve's really beautiful and expressive reading of the Torah portion, really well done, places the dew of heaven and the richness of the earth very much at the center of the blessings that Isaac gives to both his sons. And our Haftarah reading with that remarkable commentary by Ibn Ezra reminds us that peace is dependent on our recognition that there is climate injustice in the world, and that we must change ourselves and urge others to change if we are to ameliorate our current situation. It is appropriate that Eco Shabbat also happens to fall just a few days before our commemoration of Kristallnacht, or the November pogrom, to give it its more apt name. On the night of November the 9th to 10th, 1938, in hundreds of towns and villages throughout Germany, Austria, and Sudetenland, Nazis burnt down synagogues, vandalized Torah scrolls and other precious appurtenances, destroyed Jewish homes, schools, and businesses, killed close to 100 Jews, and arrested some 30,000 Jewish men who were sent to concentration camps. The November pogrom was not a spontaneous outbreak of violence, but the culmination of nearly 6 years of systematic discrimination and persecution against the Jews. It was undoubtedly the cause that led families and individuals to flee their homes at that time and part from their children, and the sinister and violent prelude that led to the deportation and destruction of 6 million Jews in Europe. After the Second World War, the Allied forces set up the International Military Tribunal at Nuremberg. The Nuremberg trial, which took place 75 years ago this year in 1946, prosecuted military and political leaders who were tried for the murder of millions of Jews, Roma, gay people, political dissidents, and many other groups in Europe. The Nuremberg trials influenced the creation of subsequent judicial institutions, and they eventually led to the establishment of the International Criminal Court in July 2002. The ICC is the first and only permanent international court with jurisdiction to prosecute individuals for 4 crimes: genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression. In recent months, however, one of the world's leading human rights lawyers, Philippe Sands, whose 2016 memoir, East-West Street, examined the origins of genocide, has been working on making the systematic destruction of nature, known as ecocide, a recognized international crime. In June of this year, a panel of legal experts co-chaired by Sands drew up a legal definition of ecocide. It defines ecocide as unlawful or wanton acts committed with knowledge that there is a substantial likelihood of severe and widespread or long-term damage to the environment being caused by those acts. This is the definition that could be used to prosecute the most heinous offenses against the environment. If adopted by the ICC's members, it would become the 5th offense the court prosecutes and the first new international crime since the Nuremberg trials. While the other 4 all focus exclusively on the well-being of human beings, Ecocide introduces a new, non-anthropocentric approach. It puts the environment at the heart of international law, recognizing that the well-being of individuals is dependent on the well-being of the planet. Law has the capacity to change public consciousness. When we think of various laws, such as the compulsory wearing of seatbelts in 1983, or smoking in enclosed public spaces banned in 2007, we begin to understand the power and force of law in changing how we see and do things. The law, along with political and diplomatic instruments, is one of the ways we can achieve protection of the environment. Some potential examples of ecocide considered by the panel include transboundary nuclear accidents, major oil spills, and Amazon deforestation, and on a smaller geographical scale, the unlawful killing of significant protected species, such as the 2 remaining northern white rhinos. Ecocide means destruction of our planetary home. If someone destroys or burns down the houses we live in, that person would be held criminally responsible and accountable. If ecocide becomes an international crime, then conceivably there would be a deterrent and a penalty. Of course, some might argue that law isn't always a deterrent. Corporations and individuals break laws all the time and live with or pay for the consequences because the advantages to them are greater than the penalties. However, the movement to prevent ecocide is international. Countless organizations and individuals are right now seeking to amplify the global conversation about the environment. 21 countries and consortia of organizations have already declared their support for making ecocide an offense liable to be prosecuted, including the UK. We have seen that rhetoric and nonviolent protest, such as that of Extinction Rebellion and Insulate Britain, while powerful in bringing to our attention the issues around the environment, have themselves too become victims of proposed changes in the law regarding protest. From a Jewish point of view, adding ecocide to the statute book of the ICC would provide a significant instrument to change public consciousness and to make illegal the destruction of the world's forests and seabeds, its carefully conserved ecosystems that ensure the preservation of millions of species of animals, birds, insects, and sea creatures. It is what Maimonides advocated in the 12th century when he prescribed a punishment for those who destroy the environment and violate the commandment, Bal Tashchit, you shall not destroy, Deuteronomy chapter 20. And it is what the prophet of our Haftarah said 2,500 years ago in his vision of a new heaven and a new earth. He recognized that the fulfillment of that vision is entirely dependent on the voices and leadership of those who are suffering the most. It takes imagination and determination to conceive of a world where the wolf and the lamb will lie down together and the lion eats straw like the ox. That may not work in a literal sense, but perhaps it works as a metaphor for climate justice, the recognition that one group cannot endlessly consume and plunder at the expense of another. Eve, let me turn to you now to congratulate you on your well-written Devar Torah and the vivid way in which you conveyed that heartbreaking story of Jacob disguising himself as Esau and deceiving his father to steal the blessing for the firstborn. You approached your preparation for the service last night, which you also read, with such dignity and beauty, and this morning's service so conscientiously, thoughtfully, and with seriousness. And both Susanna, your teacher, and I, all of us here today in the sanctuary and online, have been deeply impressed and moved by your seriousness, your confidence, and your leadership of our service this morning. I know that your favorite subject at school is science, and that you are a good all-rounder. It is your curiosity in wanting to know how things work, your thirst for learning, your tenacity and determination, and your committed involvement with woodcraft, a movement that teaches young people an understanding of nature and how to value the planet, that gives all of us here hope for the future, that you will put all your talents, your knowledge, and that curiosity to good use for the future. May every day in the future be like Eco Shabbat, a day of acknowledging the beauty of creation and the blessings it bestows on each one of us, a day of resisting the enticement of consumerism and the acquisition of material goods, a day of bringing about the recognition and fulfillment of climate justice for all peoples throughout the world. Then may the words of Isaiah come to be fulfilled. Lo yareu velo yashchitu b'chol har kodshi, amar Adonai. They shall not harm nor destroy in all my sacred mountain, says the Eternal One. Amen. Eve, one more thing this morning. I hope this won't be the last time that you come up onto the bima to lead part of the service, but it gives me great pleasure to present you with our Mahsor for the High Holy Days, our prayer book for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I hope it brings you strength, inspiration, and comfort. And Mazal Tov to you.